Hello, and welcome back to the studio. I'm Dr. Wigo, and today we're going to be unboxing a 13-inch iPad Pro, 256 gigabyte Wi-Fi. Cheapest one I could get, 13-inch. You'll see. Now, I'm going to be a little more structured than usual. I know. So first I'm going to tell my story, as always, and you can skip past that. But then you'll be skipping to the next chapter, which is where I'm going to talk about what Apple promised me. And if you watched Apple's event announcing this, you can just skip on past that because I'm just going to basically be running back through all the stuff they said in that event. And the chapter after that will be the bamboozling, where I'll talk about how Apple kind of misled me into ordering this, where this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. There were hints, but they were only hints. They didn't come right out and tell you. So I'll talk about how I was a little bit bamboozled, but ended up staying with the 256 gigabyte for price reasons mainly. Then the chapter after that will be the actual unboxing. And then after that will be like some final thoughts. Let's get into the story. Why did I buy a new iPad Pro? The answer to that's fairly obvious if you've seen my old iPad Pro. I don't know how well you can see. This thing is all worn out. In fact, I wasn't even sure how long I had this until I got to the part in the ordering where it asked about your trade-in, and they offered me like $250 or something for my trade-in. I went, well, this must not be a very recent one. Yeah, it's not. It's a third generation, 6-year-old that I bought in 2018. 256 gig Wi-Fi, just like the new guy, but with the A12X Bionic chip. So it's old. My Smart Folio is kind of, got 6 years of wear and tear, including this horrible thing here where I guess when I pick it up, I grab it. I don't know. This iPad has been serving me well. I don't really have any problems with it, except because I'm not really a power user on the iPad. That's what the MacBook Pro is for. I use this primarily for email and that kind of stuff. This sits next to me in my chair in the living room. So like when I want to look stuff up or when I want to send an email or when I want to do almost anything, look stuff up on Google. I use it to search YouTube. I start the video here and then I watch it on the TV, pick it up. Although lately, the last few months, a lot of times it doesn't register all my presses. And I don't know if it's because something else is touching the edge or I don't know. So I figured I'd buy a new one. And of course I watched the Apple event, and you know how I am with Apple events. They just trick me. Let's talk about what they said at the Apple event that made me want to buy one of these. So they started out with the thinness and with that horrible crushing thing that pissed everybody off. 5.1 millimeters thin, which I thought was really amazing until I realized that this one is 5.9 millimeters thin. It's visibly thinner, but it's not substantially thinner, but it is the thinnest Apple product ever, even thinner than the iPod Nano. Remember those? It's only 1.28 pounds, which I thought was amazing until I realized that this one's only 1.39 pounds. So it's like a tenth of a pound lighter. So the thinness and lightness isn't why I bought it. I'll tell you why I bought it. The tandem OLED display. They've laid down an OLED panel and another OLED panel on top of it to make it twice as bright. So it can get 1,000 nits of brightness in both SDR and HDR. And in HDR, it can get up to 1,600 nits of peak brightness. That's a lot of brightness. So I'm looking forward to the display. And the display will have brighter specular highlights, deeper true blacks, because of course OLED, more details and shadows in low light, again, probably mostly because of the OLED, more responsive to content in motion. It'll have the P3 wide color gamut. OLED has an amazing viewing angle. There's almost no angle at which you can't see it. And it has the nano texture glass option. Yeah, more on that later. Then they really spent a lot of time bragging about the new M4. This is the first time Apple's introduced a new major processor in an iPad and not in a MacBook. And it's built on the second generation 3mm technology. If you go back and watch my M3 MacBook videos that I will link down below. I talk about that how the 3 nanometer on the M3 was like the first step, but there was going to be a later step, and well, that's this later step. It has a new display engine for driving the tandem OLED, and here's where they started to get me. 4 performance cores and 6 efficiency cores. But I went back and watched it for this video, and they say up to 4. We'll get back to that in a minute. So overall, it's 50% faster than M2. It has a 10-core GPU with hardware accelerated mesh shading and ray tracing. I think they had that in the M3 too. So basically 4 times faster rendering than M2. It's a really good processor. Oh, and a 16-core neural engine with 38 trillion operations per second, 60 times faster than the first neural engine way back. I guess that was in an iPhone. That was on the A processors. They've been putting neural engines in for a while for machine learning, but now with this AI being the thing, basically, this is going to be the best AI processor chip until NVIDIA and all these other people get their acts together, which they're working on it. And then they talk about how they use graphite sheets underneath, and they put copper in the Apple logo, and these things combined make the thermal performance 20% better than in previous models. They moved the front camera from the portrait side to the landscape side. And I don't know about you, but I always use my iPad in landscape mode. I never put it in portrait mode. And then, of course, it comes with storage, 256, 512, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabytes. And the 11-inch was $9.99, and the 13-inch was $12.99. So that's the promise. But is that what I got when I ordered it? Not quite. This is where I feel like I was a little bit bamboozled. Well, first, it's $300 more for the 13-inch over the 11-inch. That seems like a lot. Although I went and looked, and that was the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro is also $300, so I guess they figure, well, they'll do it for that, they'll do it for this. It annoyed me a little. They promised that nano texture glass to reduce glare. But that requires the 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte models. So basically, the iPad Pros now, there's actually 2 models. Well, there's the 11 and 13, but within the 11 and 13, there's still 2 models. The 256 and 512 are one model where you can't get the nano-textured glass, and you get a different processor. Your M4 processor in here only has 9 cores, 3 efficiency cores, not 4. So they say 4 performance cores, but it's up to 4. Well, I only get 3 in here and in the 512. By the way, the reason I chose the storage I did is because this is a 256, my old one, and I looked, and I'm only using less than half of that space. So I don't need the space. That's not all. Not only do you get 1 fewer performance core, you only get 8 gigabytes of unified memory. Whereas with the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte versions, you get all 10 cores, and you get 16 gigabytes of unified memory. So again, it's actually 4 models, the 11 and 13, and they each have 2 submodels. And I got the crappier submodel. So I feel like I was a little bit bamboozled. But all things considered, it came to $1,468, and then $99 for the Smart Folio, which we will also unbox momentarily. And with tax, it was like $1,719. Because I ordered it during the event. I mean, you could go on and you could order it today, and I went and ordered it today. Then I started watching videos where people started pointing out the thing about the 1 terabyte has more cores and more memory and da-da. So I went back and spec'd out a 1 terabyte, thinking I'll get the better processor. Well, it's an extra $600. So I just told you I'm paying $1,700. So now I was going to be paying $2,300. And that's not even maxed out, because you can go again with the 2 terabyte. I didn't even buy a keyboard or a pencil because I don't use it that way. I have my MacBook Air sitting right here, which is what I use when I need a keyboard. My iPad sits on one side of me. The MacBook Air sits on the other side. So I have them both right there. So I didn't need to pay the $350 for the keyboard. And then the pencil, I'm not an artist. I can't draw. I'm pretty much useless. So I would be paying $119 so I could sign my name. I think I could use my finger. So I feel a little bamboozled, but after I went and compared the prices, I went, well, I'll stick with what I ordered, which is, as you can see here, the 256 gigabyte iPad Pro 13 Wi-Fi, which is essentially the same spec as my old one, my 6-year-old one. Okay, now here we go. There we go. So here it is. We'll just set that aside for now. No more stickers. Apple doesn't do stickers anymore because it's plastic and it's wasteful and it's bad for the environment. And you just get these two little tiny things, but then you get this big, thick cardboard thing, which is very stiff and very thick. If you're trying to reduce waste, you could have just dropped those in there like that. They didn't need this. Well, I guess this is why they didn't drop them in there like this, because you can't get them back out. There we go. And it comes with a 20-watt charging brick. And this is one of my favorites, is the colored, because I got space black, I got a black braided cable, USB-C to USB-C, which is quite lovely. I keep my iPad Pro plugged in most of the time, almost all the time, because it's sitting right there. Well, the cable was one of those white cables and it gets dirt on it and everything. Well, this will look a lot nicer. It won't pick up the dirt as much. So I'm looking forward to using this cable. Okay, let's get to the main event. Ooh. So it's got the charging connector of that, I guess, for the keyboard and other things. And then the pen is somewhere on here. Again, I'm not a pen or keyboard user. We got the camera bump, which has more things in it than my old camera bump. But in the meanwhile, they had added a wide-angle camera, and then they took it away. But I'll never miss it because I never had one. But then we got this side. So while that's booting up, let's go ahead and unbox the iPad Pro Smart Folio, which was $99. Oh, and it has a little... Well, that's a lot better looking than the old one, huh? Although it's exactly the same size, so that 12.9 inch, 13 inch, apparently that's bezel related because it looks like, yeah, the Smart Folio is exactly the same size. Of course, it has a different hole for the camera bump, so this one wouldn't, who would want to use this one anymore? Here's something I already don't like. I use my iPad in my lap with the Folio, the Smart Folio folded back like that. Well, this is going to put the camera at the bottom, not the top, because the camera is on this side. Do people open their Folio this way? Oh, I guess you could. Not the way I've been doing it, but in my lap, I like it at about that angle. But if you do it the way they want you to do it, to put the thing at the top, it's a much steeper angle. You can't get, no, it just lies down flat. You can't get, well, if it'll stick, you can kind of get that angle. Yeah, maybe. This is another thing. You know, and when they do the product announcements, they always have that new wallpaper for the new devices, like for the MacBook Air and for the MacBook Pro, and for this thing, they had that really cool one. But look, when you install it, you get just some random kind of ugly. You don't get the pretty one that they have in the announcement. Okay, so I've done the transfer, which took like 17 minutes. So now I have the new iPad Pro set up exactly like the old iPad Pro. And I don't know if it shows on camera, but this one is much brighter, substantially brighter. The colors also look a little more saturated. Yeah, this tandem OLED is really paying off. Yeah, I like it. I mean, other than that, not a huge difference. And when I put them on top of each other, 12.9 and 13, I think that's all just marketing because the bezels look the same width. The screen lines up exactly. Now, okay, well this way looks to the eye like exactly the same width, but this one looks slightly taller, the new one. So, a tenth of an inch. How much could it be? Okay, so now I've added the new wallpaper. Yeah, I like that. With the extra color and the thing, it really shows off, which is probably why they chose it. It really shows off the tandem OLED capability. I mean, the colors and the thing. Yeah, it's definitely a better iPad. Now, is it worth $1,700? Well, I guess it is because that's what I paid. I think I would have been disappointed if I had paid the over $2,000 though, because for what I do not need that additional processor core. I do not need the additional memory because I've never had any kind of problems where things were slow. Even on this old guy, it was never slow. So I doubt this will ever be slow. Now, if you're an artist, if you're video editing on your iPad, which I don't know why you would do, but it's you. But if you're a musician using the things that really chew up the power, and like the new Final Cut Pro for iPad that has the one button remove background thing that's done through AI, well, then you might need the extra power. But again, that's not what I use this for. I have a MacBook Pro to do all that with an M3 Max. So yes, this would be slightly faster maybe, but I wouldn't do it here. I'm relatively happy with this. It looks great. It feels great. It's lighter. It's easier to handle. That is the new 13-inch, 12.9-inch, 13-inch iPad Pro, 256 gigabytes with Wi-Fi. $1,700, including the Smart Folio and tax. It's a lot of money. Probably not worth the money. I probably could have gotten by with the iPad Air, which has an M2 now, which is what the iPad Pro had before this. So I could have had that. Am I happy with my purchase? I'll tell you what. Come back later on and I will do a review of whether I think I have wasted my money. I've wasted my money. You all know I've wasted my money. You've seen me waste my money so many times. But just the difference in prices, it's almost painful. So was it worth it? Well, time will tell. Probably not. I need a new one anyway, because as you saw, this one was getting long in the tooth and it was having trouble sometimes detecting my touches. Probably could have gone with an iPad Air, but I always have to have the best. And that's why I felt bamboozled, because this isn't the best. This is second best. The best are the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte versions that have the full M4 with all 4 performance cores and 16 gig of unified memory. I'm not paying over $2,000 for an iPad. I'm sorry. If I were an artist and with the pencil and everything, maybe. If I were a musician or if I used the keyboard thing, but I got a MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro. I do not need this to have a keyboard. That's my unboxing of the new iPad Pro 13-inch with 256 gigabytes and Wi-Fi and the new Smart Folio for $99. I did not get the keyboard, I did not get the pencil, and I probably will not because that's not my use case for this thing. This is for, doing crossword puzzles and checking email and that kind of stuff. So that's it for today. Don't know what I'll be doing next time, but come on back and see me. See you next time. Bye-bye. And now I'm just going to go downstairs and play with my new iPad Pro and let you know how it went in a future video. Thanks for staying to the end. Bye-bye.